You have a lot of there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people logged on that that are fans of yours, and I guess we all would like to know, what have you been up to these days?
Well, I'm working on a memoir, which, as we were doing a pre-chat, it's probably the hardest writing I've ever done, and even though I've been a public person for years and years, I'm intrinsically a very private person. So making up a story to tell is a lot easier for me than, contemplating my own life, my own successes, my own failures, my own mistakes, all that stuff, which is what a memoir is. So I resist. So it makes the process a lot harder, but I signed a deal, so I got to do the work. I already cashed the check, so I got to do the work. So that's about it.
And you mentioned you're caring for your 100-year-old mother right now.
Yes, I'm caring for my mom. I moved my mom into my home in November of 21, and was it 21? No, 2020. And so all last year, 21, she was here with me. She has dementia. She'll turn 101 on June 1st. She's been a widow for a number of years and living on her own and pretty much taking care of herself. So I could see that she was no longer able to care for herself so much. So then I decided to move her in here and manage her care. So I have helpers every day. And it's quite an experience to that thing that people say, once an adult, twice a child. They usually say once a man, twice a child, twice. So I'm the adult now, and it's interesting. It's sometimes very painful, but also at times very lovely. Because, for example, I was trying to figure out ways to prick her memory, just things that we could do here in the house. And it occurred to me that this was a woman who really loved music when she was younger. She used to sing in the kitchen. And when she was dating my dad back in high school, he was a street guy and he was really into music and jazz and Duke Ellington and all that. So they used to go to big shows. And he told me that she used to dance in the aisles. So I said, Mom used to dance in the aisles? Oh my God. But so I have a CD player upstairs in her space, and I put my headset on her and put on Nat King Cole, and she was in heaven. She listens to it every other day. She loves this. I said, well, Mom, there's other music we can get to, but she doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want to leave Nat King Cole. So I said, okay, leave it.
So are you more like your mother or your father?
I think I'm probably both, very much so. My father has had a great influence on my life, positive influence. But he was a more social person, he loved show business. He came to see me in Mississippi and Louisiana when I was in the Civil Rights Movement to check on me. He came to New York when I was in the Negro Ensemble Company. He would go to the Cattleman restaurant, eat a rack of lamb, drink 2 Crown Royals, and come to the theater and snore in the front row. So, and then
I laughed when you quoted your father in one interview when he said, "Don't have me walking in the theater with one of my buddies and seeing you half naked up on that screen." The time in which you started was very difficult for women. Yet, after all these years, are women more objectified and judged by parents than ever before?
I think that goes with the territory of show business. I mean, it is that. It is about looks. Even if you're not talking about the beauty market, you're talking about how shows and plays are cast and how the physicality of the actor has something to do with the casting. The director or whoever's doing the casting has to see how that actor is going to be in the full context of that play or that TV show. So there's always something attached to character that has to do with the visual. And in this business, that's a tight thing. I think that things have changed a lot since I was more active in television, and lot more Black talent on the screen and behind the camera. I mean, when I was doing Room 222, there was not much. It was almost none. So, and I've talked about this in interviews. I was busy trying to be a writer even then, and I was, bringing the producer of Room 222 show ideas, and he just looked at me, nice girl, nice actress, no writing. Okay. So when I finally got to In the Heat of the Night, I was able to break that door down and do some writing for that show because Carroll O Connor gave me a shot to write. But it's a lot has changed in those years, thankfully.
You grew up, back to your parents, and up in, you're from suburban Detroit, Michigan. What is your fondest childhood memory growing up in Detroit?
Wow. Whew. This is you're testing my memory cells, aren't you? Let me see. I think I have a few, but I think the family things at my father's mother's home, those were great times. When we were little, my brother is 3 years older than I am, and we were always there, and it was always fun. I think tooling around with Dad, too, in those days, because he always had a Cadillac, and he'd park us in the back seat and go do his runs. And that was always fun. Being with him was always fun. So something happened.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Would you talk about the Freedom Southern Theater? And were your parents supportive or horrified when you quit school to tour with the Freedom Southern Theater and then went into acting?
Yeah, the Free Southern Theater. Well, I was at University of Michigan, and my mother was horrified when I made that decision to drop out of school. She was terrified because of the violence in the South, but also I think she just wanted me to go straight through and finish my degree and then start my life. She didn't want me to start my life ducking the Ku Klux Klan in Mississippi and Louisiana for 2 years, which is what I did. So my dad did not try to talk me out of it because he was a race man. He believed in Black people, and he was I think he was afraid for me, which is why he came down there to check on me. But his ability to see the country and our role in it and our position in it in really clear terms, I think was closer to me than Mom's position, because she was kind of,
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Free Southern Theater and how you became involved?
Yes. I was at University of Michigan, and I took a break. I went to New York to just hang out in New York, get a job, just be out of Ann Arbor for a bit. And I met actually Gil Moses, who was the founder of the Free Southern Theater, at a party. So he was talking about building a touring theater in the South that was a part of the Civil Rights Movement. And Civil Rights Movement had come to campus in the sense that speakers were coming up from the South all the time. Stokely Carmichael came up. Many people came to speak about what was going on in the South. And there was a contingent of students on that campus at that time who were very active politically. I wasn't in that group at first, but as time went on, and I was taking a lot of political science classes, and I became more and more involved mentally to what was going on in the South and how it was going to affect everybody. So Gil Moses and the theater thing, to me, was my way to go to the South in a slightly more benign thing than standing in a voter register, getting knocked over the head for trying to register somebody register somebody to vote. So I joined the theater. I left Ann Arbor, went to Jackson, Mississippi, where the theater was where it was started, and I went down there to as a script reader and an office worker because I had no acting experience at all. But one of the actresses who was supposed to come didn't show up, so they pushed me onto the stage and sort of demanded that I do a role because we didn't have anybody else to do it. So that's how it started.
Now, you've mentioned, in other writings, trench Mississippi, gut bucket Mississippi. Can you explain what you meant by those terms?
They're visual terms, so think about gut bucket. Think about trench. Yuck. Is it trench mouth? Is a trench by the side of the road? It just was a nightmare. It was just really the neglect and the disenfranchisement, the poverty, and the people who came to our plays and wanted to be involved, they wanted to embrace the contemporary world, even though their physical circumstances were probably still in the 1920s or the early 1900s, as poverty was so entrenched. So it's, when I say gut bucket Mississippi, it's like that's about the bottom of the barrel, in terms of living circumstances. Yeah.
So, what 1987, you returned back to Michigan and you got your degree.
I got my degree out here.
I got University of Southern
USC. Yeah, USC here. So it was great. I went back to school. I knew I was going to do it. I had it in the back of my mind. I had to finish that degree. And so I went back to school, finished it. But the fun part about it was I went back as a theater major because I obviously had a lot of experience by that time. But two theaters that I had worked with were in the history book in the class. So I got to teach the class a couple of days. The Free Southern Theater was in the book. And the Negro Ensemble Company in New York was in the book. So I got to be the star of the class.
Well, and I imagine that must have been, pretty difficult taking that on because, as you mentioned, the 80s was such a traumatic decade for you because you said that you lived your sister's death for a decade, so it sounds like you had so much loss during the 80s. So it was just refreshing when I was looking at your history just to see that something good happened,
Thank you. Yes, it did. It was great. And I think, Michelle's death, yes, that first decade, she was murdered in 1980. And I went back to school, in 1987, 86, 87. So I also have had a philosophy over all of my adult life. Usually when I get in trouble emotionally, I go back to school. So it helps me focus and straighten myself out and go forward instead of wallowing in the past. So going back to school at that time was perfect for me, absolutely perfect. It was the thing for me to do.
Would you talk about how you gave birth to your first book, Freshwater Road? And I had read that you state that you had spent every dime you had, you turned down auditions, and you gave it your all. And you did this at 61. Could you talk about that? Talk about that process, that experience, that moment.
Well, I had been dreaming about being a writer for so many years. And when I got on In the Heat of the Night, and I've talked about this in many environments, I was able to pitch a few ideas to Carroll O Connor, and he gave me a deal to write. So that began really, actually, my professional writing career, though I had been writing on my own and journaling and writing things, just kind of in my own little room, in my own little world. But I wanted more from it, and he gave me a deal to write. So I wrote 6 scripts for him. And when the show was canceled in '94, I said, okay, you've gotten this far. Don't stop now. And a friend of mine was in a writing workshop with the writer Janet Fitch, who wrote this outstanding book, White Oleander, which was one of Oprah's picks back in the day. And she was running a private workshop in her home over here in Silver Lake. So I gave her my little pages that I had been working on for 90 years, didn't know what I was doing. And she accepted me into the workshop. So Freshwater Road was born truly in that workshop.
Just to interject a moment, if you haven't, this is the book Freshwater Pond. It was published in...
Here's the paperback.
Is that the model? I have an old copy.
You got an old thing over there. This is newer.
I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Her book is
That's okay.
Mine.
That's
anyway,
okay.
Tell us a little bit about the book and how you gave birth to Celeste Tyree. How did you give birth to? How did you give birth to Celeste Tyree?
Celeste is part Denise, part Martha Prescott Noonan, who was one of my roommates at Michigan, who was deeply political and went south before I did. And my other roommate at Michigan was Jewish, Avis Lang, and we're all three still friends after all these years, even though we live all over the country. But Celeste is a composite character. But as a first-time novelist, it was very helpful to me, obviously, to use as much of myself as I could for that character. And the father character is a rendition of my dad. He's a street guy, always in a Cadillac, numbers guy, all of those things. That's my dad, and that's the character in the book. Now, let me say this. That character in the book is the character that got me a New York literary agent. We were trying to find an agent for me, and Janet Fitch, my writing teacher, suggested that I go with her agent. So I reached out to him, sent him the manuscript. He called me back. He said, I love this character. I said, what character? He said, the father. And I said, oh, this white guy from the East Coast loves the character of the father, who was a black man from Detroit, who was a numbers man, but my dad was he was so loved and so admired by so many people. He was one of those people who had a big heart. He's just a big heart. Everybody loved him. He'd love to see him come and hate to see him go. So that character got the agent that helped me finish the deal with Freshwater Road.
You mentioned at the time that you had, you wrote this epic novel, but at the time you burned your own journals. Why did you do that?
I did. I felt, and it was a stupid move, a totally stupid move, but I did it because I was afraid that if I pulled all those journals together and started going through all of that, and there were a lot of them from going way, way, way back, I was going to be writing that rather than creating a fresh story. And so I didn't want to get tangled up in all of that. I had an idea that the book would take place over the course of Freedom Summer 1964, from June to the end of August. And that's the story. And my writing teacher wanted me to make the book longer. She said, you're writing an American classic. I said, yeah, but I'm done in August. Okay, because I'm not all classic out. I was like, it took, I was writing a book as I was learning to write. So it was like a lot of pressure, it took a lot of will to bring it to the finish line. And great that I was in that workshop, because the critiques, there were 7 or 8 of us in that workshop, and the critiquing was excellent, and that helped push my skill forward. So I wish I was in a workshop like that now, because it just really made all the difference in the world.
And I noticed that Sidney Poitier wrote a review on the jacket of the book. He's not one to flatter. I mean, if it was not a good book, he would not have endorsed it. So how did you get Sidney Poitier's endorsement?
Well, I think I asked him. I said, "Would you do a blurb?" So I gave him a copy of the book, and he did a blurb. But I think he, like Carroll O Connor, both of these men are actors who write and write well. Sidney is a good writer. Carroll O Connor was a very good writer, and that was one of the things I think that we had that respect for each other. We were actors, yes, and they were my boss in different situations, but they really loved the fact that I was trying to branch out into writing. So they respected that and rewarded me, in a sense, with their patience. So,
you said, speaking of writing, you said it uses me, all of me. It doesn't diminish any part of me, mind, body, and soul. Did acting diminish you in some sense?
Yes, it did. It did. I never played a character who had the brains that I have. I never played a character who went to the University of Michigan and graduated from USC. Who writes Black characters like that back then? I mean, we're getting more there now, But I mean, the guidance counselor on Room 222 was that. It was a character that I respected. And I could, I patterned her after a great aunt of mine who was a guidance counselor and psychologist in Detroit public schools. So, but other than that, it's been a lot of not bad stuff. It's just lightweight. It's just it's fun. All the stuff I did with Sidney was great fun. In the Heat of the Night was, again, a little more substantial character, which I loved. So, but truly, in my earlier years, there really wasn't very much that I felt proud of in terms of what was being offered or what I was going to audition for. It became a job. This is a job. I need this money to pay my house note and pay this car note because I like a pretty car. And,
what kind of car do you have now?
Take a guess.
What kind of car?
Huh? Take a guess.
You have a Cadillac?
No, that was Daddy's car.
Okay. Huh.
I had to take it up a notch. It's a Benz. No,
Benz,
it's
okay.
a Mercedes. That's all I've ever driven. So
Wow.
I'm not bragging. I just like pretty cars. Yeah.
You had mentioned in another interview that when everybody talks to you, they always ask about Carroll O Connor and in Heat of the Night, and you said something very interesting. You said that whole because in Heat of the Night, drew a lot of attention of having an interracial couple on screen,
Mm-hmm.
in Mississippi of all places. But you say that you think that interracial relationship, that whole thing, that it contributed to the demise of the show. And you think the show would have went on a little bit longer had it not been for the interracial romance that was written out?
I don't think so, because though we did get hate mail,
You got hate mail?
Oh yeah, they didn't show it to me until the last couple of weeks of this that we were working. Yeah, we got hate mail, but I don't think that relationship caused the end of the show. I think that there were a number of issues, not the least of which was Carroll's health, because he had had a heart attack and he had heart issues and he had diabetes and he was a workaholic. He was the producer, the star. He wrote many scripts under the pseudonym Matt Harris. If you look at the show and you see a script and it says written by Matt Harris, that's Carroll O Connor. So he was constantly, he was a workaholic. He worked. And I think that his health was starting to go down. So,
aside from Carroll O Connor, did you have any lasting relationships or friendships with any of the other cast members?
um, no, not really. I never do with the people I work with. I don't know why. That's kind of weird.
Was it like
I do the
you know,
I do the job, and I'm like, toodles. I'll see you later. I'm gone. So,
he had such a sad demise. But what was it like working with Howard Rollins?
Howard was one of the most beautiful actors I've ever seen. He got in trouble personally during the course of the show. I don't know I don't know all of his issues, but I know it did affect the show. And that's when Carroll had finally, although Carroll was very protective of him and tried very hard to keep the network from, removing him. He fought for him. He fought for him. I mean, fought for him. And he loved his work. He thought that Howard Rollins was super, and I do too. I think if you haven't seen work, Soldier Story, and what was the other thing? The big movie. I'll think of it in a minute. But he's such a beautiful actor, and Carroll wanted him. But at a certain point, Howard's behavior did him in. It did him in. His own behavior did him in. So, yeah. There is one person that I've stayed in contact with. I don't mean to do that. Carol's assistant, Claire Baker, who lives up in Oregon, she and her husband, she was around all the time, and we became close friends. And when I did Freshwater Road, she set up a book event for me up there. So I went up to this teeny tiny little town in Oregon. I said, I know I'm the only black person within 5,000 miles. There's a lot of trees and a lot of white people. And I said, oh, please, no trouble, please, no trouble. So I'm in touch with her, but the other actors, I don't have a lot of actor friends. I don't. I have friends who are producers, writers, other aspects of the business, but a couple of actor friends. Robert Hooks and I are close friends. Hattie Winston.
You had Robert Hooks here last year.
Oh, you did? Yeah, we're close. We're close. He and his wife and I are close friends.
Lori, is that her name?
Lori. Lori.
Yeah,
Yes.
Lori, yeah. He gave us a lot of insight on the Negro Ensemble in D.C.
Yes, we're ensemble company. Right.
Yeah, and he was just a wealth of information. His mind is just sharp as ever.
Yes, yes, indeed. He's a smarty pants.
You appeared on so many other beloved TV shows, Different Strokes, The Love Boat, Takes a Thief, films like Blackula, Ghost Dad. I know it was like your work, but was there any one that was just a really enjoyable, fun role? What role have you had the most fun with?
Let's Do It Again with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. I love that role. I love the soundtrack. I love everything about it. It was so much fun. I got to chew that gum and crack that gum, and I had a gun, and the lady had a gun. I told her to get the gun out of my face before I make her eat it. I mean, it was just crazy. It was crazy, and I had to put big boobs on, so I had big towels and my big brassiere, and I had high heel boots on, and I couldn't walk in them, so I was stumbling all over the place. I love that. I wanted to do comedy. That's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to do comedy. Not stand-up comedy, comedic roles. I think that was where I was best suited.
So what was your last acting role since Heat of the Night?
That's, I did one little small role in a low-budget independent film in upstate New York, and it was an experience, but I thought I have so had it with sitting around here waiting for things to happen. You sit in your dressing room or you sit on the set, you drink too much coffee, you eat too much bad food, and then you're just, I said, this role is not worth what it's costing me mentally and emotionally to be here. And that's the way, that was one of the other ways that I was wiggling out of acting, because I just wasn't feeling fulfilled by the work. Yeah.
I digressed, a little bit. Could you go back and tell us how you got the role Room 222?
Yes, I was in New York at the Negro Ensemble Company, and I had, I had an agent, a new agent. That was my first time having an agent, and they called me in to audition in New York at 20th Century Fox in New York. And ABC, it was ABC and Fox. So I went to the audition, and then they called my agent and said, we want to take her to California for a screen test. So I flew out. They flew me out here. I hadn't ever been in California, so it was all very exciting. I was like, oh, I'm in Hollywood. And so I came out here. I screen tested with Billy D. Williams, and he didn't get the part. I did, and that was a shock to me. Yeah, I know. Everybody's like, what? I said, yeah. So I came back, went back to New York, and then they called back and said, we want to bring her back out for a personality test. So they flew me back out here. And I was at 20th Century Fox doing this other test, which is, at the time, I don't even know if they still do this stuff. I just stood in front of the camera. Gene Reynolds, the producer, and he was directing a number of the episodes, asked me a couple of questions, and I just started rolling, just running my mouth. It worked. I sold myself. And I was talking, I think, if my memory serves me, he asked me a question, and I started talking about my time in the civil rights movement. I started talking about Mississippi and Louisiana and running from the Klan. How I made it funny, I do not know, but I did. And the people were falling off the chairs laughing, and I said, oh, good, this is good. And I got the part.
Now, speaking of your work in civil rights movement, are you politically engaged now?
I can't understand.
I'm sorry. Are you politically engaged or politically active now?
No, not really. Not when I'm writing. I'm not. I mean, I pay attention. Trust me, I pay attention. And things are bad. I mean, this country is roiling. It's just going nuts. People banning books, and now they want to burn books. I mean, this is Nazi Germany in the 1930s. People banning books and burning books. Who ever heard of such a thing? And so, yes, I pay close attention to what's going on. And if I was sleeping at the wheel, Trump got in, and now I'm awake. I'm wide awake. So,
well, and the motifs in Freshwater Road. I mean, those are motifs that are right. Those are the type of motifs that are being banned. So
that's exactly
you might be on the ban list here pretty soon.
My book might be in that big old pile of fire. I don't know, but I keep trying to figure out what is critical race theory. I haven't yet figured it out. They only teach it in law school is what I've heard. I'm like, what is it? I'm reading 1619 now, the whole book, and it's wonderful. It's just really beautifully done. It's clear. It's concise. It's referenced so well. I mean, it's just good work. So
speaking of books, give us your top 3 books of all time.
Oh,
Top 3. If you were stranded on a desert island, you could take 3 books with you. What would you take?
One would be Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I love that book. I really love it. Another one would probably be one of Toni Morrison's books. Which one did I love the most? I love them all. I would say Beloved. It's beautiful.
And I can see why you like Toni Morrison, because you have a similar writing style. You have a very flowery, descriptive writing style. So I can see why you would like Toni Morrison.
She's good with imagery and metaphor. Yes. Thank you. That's a compliment. I'll take it.
Well, yeah, but unfortunately, I don't know with the microwave instant gratification culture. I don't know if the public has the kind of patience for descriptive, flowery writing today.
I don't think
You
so.
know,
I think we're in a closer to a more journalistic style right now. And I think, I don't know what's in fiction right now because I'm not reading any. I'm just writing and reading nonfiction just to keep up with the news of the day. But if they're banning books and they're banning literary fiction, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. It's so
so
disappointing. It's so.
I I cut you off. You gave us two. You did Toni
I
Morrison.
gave
What's
you
the third
two.
one?
I'm trying to think. What would be a favorite? Something that I go back to more than once. It's probably going to be something by James Baldwin. Let's keep talking, and it'll come to me.
So what do you
I
so what
hope.
do you watching? So what are you watching on TV these days?
Beside Yellowstone.
Tell us about Yellowstone. Why do you like Yellowstone?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I tell everybody I have a fan crush on Kevin Costner. They look at me like I've lost my mind. But I've loved his work for years and years. I loved his presence on the screen. And this show, I wasn't aware of it. And one of Mom's helpers told me asked me if I had seen Yellowstone. I said, I don't even know what it is. And she said, it's a show that goes about the modern day West. And I thought, well, that's not anything I've been interested in. But I checked it out and I was like, oh my God, this thing is beautiful. It's family drama, but it's also political in the sense that it's about land. It's about who owns this land in Montana, which is like God's country. It's so beautiful up there. And so it's the fight to hold on to the old look of the land instead of developing it with casinos and ski resorts and all kind of stuff that bring masses of people in that deface the land. So that's one of the storylines in it. The other storyline is, of course, the conflict within his family. He has kids. He has one child who's adopted. He adopted him, and his daughter, the character Beth, is the wildest female character I've ever seen on television. She drinks, she cusses like a sailor, and she's sexy overtly. She's sharp, she's smart, she's a stockbroker mentality, and she handles all of his business. So here's this character that pops off the screen and you go, my God. So that's the one part. Then there's all the horses, all the cows, all the buffalo running around. And the other thing I love about the show is the soundtrack. It's country music, but it is the most exquisite country music I have ever heard. It's gorgeous. And when you listen to it, you hear the influence of African American Southern music all through those songs. It is like sometimes a song will come on and I'm thinking, God, that sounds like that's in a church in Mississippi in some backwoods place, and there's a thing, somebody's pounding on the floor, stomping on the floor to keep a rhythm, and then this other thing is happening, and it's like, oh my God, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I love the opening credits even. I'm waxing poetic about the show. Now I'll stop.
So, so when you watch this show, do you eat? Are you a junk food person? You like junk food?
No, no. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
So, my last question here: you've had two successful careers as an actor and writer. Are you finished, or is there a third incarnation out there on your horizon?
No, this is it. This is it. Two big works, acting and writing. That's it. I think if I can get this memoir finished and like it, I love Freshwater Road. I want to love this memoir as much as I love Freshwater Road, and that's going to
Now,
be a stretch.
one of the viewers asked, when will your next book be out? When can we expect the memoir?
Okay, Doug Seibelt, my publisher, when he said I'm supposed to hand this in by the end of the year, and I guess he would try to get it published by the end of next year, because I'll probably have to I'm sure I'll do a second or maybe even a third draft and do some back and forth with him. So yeah, I think by the end of next year it should be out.
Um, so what? I mean, that's all the questions that I have for you. At this time, we will open it up. If anybody who's tuning in right now, if you have any questions for Ms. Nicholas, we will, type those in, and I'll ask them.
Okay.
Someone mentioned that they recall that you're writing a love story. Is that still on the table?
Yes, it's right over there in that chest. As soon as I finish this memoir, I'm going right back to it because I'd done quite a bit of work on it when he told me, when he asked me to do the memoir first. So,
Now, now,
yeah.
some writers have idiosyncrasies, and they write like Maya Angelou had to take. She wrote everything by hand in pencil on yellow notepads, and she'd get a bottle of sherry, and she'd go to a nearby motel and write. Do you have any? do you have any? Do you have anything that puts you in your writing groove? Do you have any strange behaviors when it comes to your writing regimen?
No, not strange. I do have a ton of yellow pads all around here, but no, my writing time is early morning, so I get up at 5 and
Wow.
get coffee and kind of get my brains going, and then I try to, attack, come to the computer or sit down over here and with my notepads. Writing about yourself and writing about your family and your life experiences is very, very touchy. It's very difficult. You want to be honest, emotionally honest, but you don't want to say things that hurt people that are unaware that they may have had a negative effect on you. You know what I'm saying? People just go along, go along, go along. I do too. And I don't know how many toes I've stepped on in my life. I'm sure I've stepped on a few. But I, I think when you write a memoir, you kind of, it's like, what is that expression? Opening the kimono. You're just like, oh, this is who I really am. And it's hard for me. It's very hard for me. I'd
So
much rather be working on that love story.
so so as you put in your life, on paper, is the most what have you learned about yourself in this process?
Well, that I think what I've learned really, really shockingly is how immature I was until probably very recently. That sounds crazy because I'm an old lady, but I think that it started in a long time ago. I was put up a grade. So I was doing things at 15. I was at the National High School Institute at Northwestern University when I was 15, staying in a dormitory away from home for the whole summer. That was the summer before my senior year in high school. When I got to Ann Arbor a year later, I was actually just turned 17 when I got to campus. My birthday's in July. I was at campus in September. I was not prepared for any of that. I was much more immature. I was acting grown, of course, as we all do when we're at a certain age. But I think the fact that I was so immature had negative impact on my life going forward. So it took me a while to catch up, and a little bit of therapy as well. So,
So you had mentioned that with Freshwater, there's some autobiographical components in it in the character formation. So would there be any autobiographical components in this love story?
no, not really, not really. It takes place. The story starts in Mississippi again, but in an all-black town called what's it called, Mount Bayou, and
Oh yes, Matt
I did
Bayou,
go.
yes.
Yes, I was there in during the Free Southern Theater. We performed there, so I never forgot it. And so what I've written so far is a love story between an older woman and a younger man, both adults, but still her husband left her, and this young man. There is an attraction between them, but it's a small, black, very religious town. So everything is under wraps. So they leave. They have to leave to go to go north, go to Chicago. And I'm not going to say
time
anymore.
What time period does it take place in?
1950s.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody here in the chat asked, how many classes are you teaching per semester? Are you still teaching?
No, I'm not. I had to, when I got this contract, actually when COVID hit, I had to dissolve the writing workshop because we were right here at my dining room table every other Saturday. I had 6 writers. So we had a couple of sessions during COVID, and we had some Zoom sessions. But as soon as Doug reached out to me about this book deal, I had to, let that go. So go back to work. Work. Paycheck work.
Awesome. It's been exciting talking to you, and it's just, I'm just grateful to see that, you're so passionate about your writing, and you're so full of life. That just seems to make you happy now. So that, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
I thank you. It's just been an honor to have this opportunity to speak with you. So, do be well, do be safe, and I can't wait to read your memoir early next year.
Okay, thank you so much. Take good care.
Yes. Oh, wait, there's one more question here. Somebody said, do you watch the reruns of the shows you acted in?
I do. I did. I mean, it's so long now. With the Heat of the Night was over in 94, 95. So, in the immediate aftermath of the show, I would spot check and, periodically watch a show. But not now. I don't. I mean, every once in a while, if, I catch a rerun on one of the off stations and I'll watch. I'm always looking for the ones I wrote. So, especially the first one. Because the first one was about a woman who tried to register to vote in that town where that show takes place. And that's the first one Carroll bought for me. When I pitched him that idea, I said, Carroll, you have all these Black characters and you're in a town in Mississippi and you ain't mentioned a word about voting. Come on now. So I pitched the show and he said, I'll buy it. He said, stop harassing me. I said, so I said, okay. I said, who's going to write it? He said, you are. And I said, but I don't know how. He said, I'll teach you. He was great.
So somebody else here asked, they said, during the wedding scene between Bill Gillespie and Harriet DeLong, surreal to you, meaning what were you feeling during the final scene in the Heat of the Night?
Time to go back to LA. So we were in Georgia. So I felt different points along the way as he developed that relationship, because he wrote, created that relationship between the two characters. That was what he wanted to do from the moment he hired me.
Wow.
And so it was at first uncomfortable because it was an interracial relationship on TV. And I'm like, oh God, having a date with somebody and going out somewhere is one thing, putting it all up on the screen, Lord have mercy. So, but he was very clever. He developed it very slowly. He knew his audience and he took his audience with him on that journey. He was a very, very smart man. Very smart man.
The show is still in syndication.
It still runs. Right? It still runs. Yeah, it's very popular.
Somebody asked here, what tips do you have for new writers?
Well, workshops, good workshops, can kind of push you forward. But you have to be very careful about the workshop that you get in because they're all not equal. Pushing, and it depends if you're working at being a script writer. That's one area. I was just a little bit into that. My goal all along was long form fiction. That's what I really wanted to write. I tried to do an adaptation of Freshwater Road for for film, and it just felt like lead. I just couldn't really do it. I was not very good at it. But anyway, I suggest, and there are lots of good classes at universities. I would be very careful, though. Make sure that there's positivity, that there's support, that people are tearing each other down and being overly critical. You want critique, but you want critique with compassion. You don't want people, taking digs at you, because that'll make you shut down. Because you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable when you write. So
somebody asked here, what gave you the courage to tell your story now?
Well, Doug, my publisher, he's I really like and respect him so much, and he kind of pushed me in the direction of the memoir. So, again, it's very hard for me to do this particular task of writing about myself. So,
somebody, Betty here on Facebook, I guess, commented, Freshwater Road would really be an awesome movie.
I thought so, but we couldn't. We tried. We couldn't get a deal. God knows we tried.
So if it was a movie, aside from you, who would you profile to play Celeste and to play your father?
Well, Celeste is 19, so it won't be me. That's for sure. That train left the station. But for the father character, I would say somebody like Denzel. I mean, he has swag. He can be straight as an arrow, but he also knows the street. And that character is both those things. He's a good person, but he's a street person.
Do you have any street in you?
From my dad, yeah. Oh, I can go at it. Don't get me going now.
Well, I think those are all the questions that we have from the audience. We enjoyed talking to you. And again, we look forward to the memoir coming out, and hopefully you can come here and do a book signing in Wilmington.
I would love it. So stay in touch.
Well, have a good afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this evening. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.